On any given night in the US, over 500,000 people sleep on the street. And there's no shortage of programs doing outreach to these folks with mental health services or addiction counseling or even job training. But there's one simple program that's revolutionizing homelessness by dealing with the problem head on. I'm Ryan Duffy, and this is Now What? In the middle of downtown Los Angeles, there's a 50-square block village made up of cardboard and tent houses. Most of us know it as Skid Row, and it's estimated that there are as many as 18,000 people who sleep there every night. One of those people is Tony Presley, a 69-year-old Vietnam vet who found himself homeless after returning from the war.
When I left, I was a happy, normal, adjusted gentleman. When I come back, I was everything but that. I'm walking around sick and don't know a damn thing about it. I was isolating myself. I didn't want nobody around me and didn't want to be around nobody.
Tony was diagnosed with PTSD, and like many others with mental illness, he found it difficult to hold down a job. I recently sat down with him to discuss his journey.
When I first became homeless, it was like a kid who gets lost. You try to figure a way to get back to where you were, but there's nowhere to go. You don't have any resources. You have nothing that'll help you but yourself. You're lost. For a long time, you're lost.
What Tony's describing is what's now referred to as chronic homelessness, and it first became an epidemic in the early 80s, when cuts to housing and mental health services forced thousands of individuals onto the streets.
Reagan initiated the deinstitutionalization of the mentally ill. Large state-run psychiatric institutions were emptied out without appropriate housing and supports being put into place in the community.
Chronic homelessness has become a permanent condition, and many cities are finding their resources drained by an increasing number of homeless residents moving in and out of jails, emergency rooms, and detox facilities. A recent study found that 800 of the most frequently incarcerated people in New York City cost taxpayers $129 million. Over half of those people just so happen to be homeless.
Keeping people on the streets is expensive. Public spending on somebody who is homeless is upwards of $30,000 or $40,000 a year. It's huge money that could be put to much, much better use.
It does get hard to get off the streets. Have you been in it for a long time? But still, you got this thing in the back of your head, I want out.
In cities across the US, it's becoming effectively illegal to be homeless. There's been a 60% increase in bans on camping in public, and even more laws against sleeping in your car. For the over 500,000 people who sleep on the street any given night in the US, they're on the wrong side of a whole lot of new legislation, and the pathway out of chronic homelessness is becoming increasingly difficult to see.
In observing the repeated failures of the existing system, it was clear we needed to do something different.
Tsemberis first became interested in the problem of homelessness during the early 80s, when he worked as a staff psychologist at Bellevue Hospital in New York, where he first encountered the Housing Ready model. Housing Ready was the accepted approach to housing the homeless at the time, and required candidates to comply with a strict set of rules before they were rewarded with a place to live.
Can you demand treatment and sobriety from every person who is applying for your apartments? Of course you can't. You'd be sued.
And this is what led Sam to a simple, revolutionary new model: housing first. Sam believed that what the homeless needed first, before substance treatment or mental health counseling or any other service, was simply a place to call home.
We can actually put them in housing and get them into treatment much more effectively if we give them housing first and then wraparound services. That is the cure for this group of people.
And it seems so simple, right?
Yeah.
And on a base level, to go, people are homeless and what they need is homes, seems almost so obvious that you don't want to say it out loud.
I know.
Housing First is a social services program implemented at the city level. Sam and his organization work through the mayor's office, the municipality, and local advocacy groups to reallocate existing funds being used on homeless management into more permanent housing options.
The results of doing Housing First were surprising to us. We had no idea when we would put people into an apartment whether they would succeed or fail. I mean, if we could do as well as the existing systems of care, which was hovering somewhere around 40 or 50%, we would have been pleased. But the thing is, it worked terrifically well. In the first year, we had an 84% success rate. So we knew we were onto something.
And this is where Housing First really surprises people. Not only does it empower people to take charge of their own lives, but it makes financial sense as well.
People who are homeless are going in and out of hospital, or in and out of detox, or in and out of jail, which are very expensive social programs. Putting someone into an apartment is actually much, much cheaper than keeping them homeless.
One of the early adopters of the Housing First program was Lloyd Pendleton, the director of Utah's Homeless Task Force.
We did a study here and came out about $20,000 a year per person, and we could house them for about $12,000. So we used that as the basis to say economically it's much more feasible and much more effective. So I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to find the most challenging, difficult, chronically homeless people we can find. 22 months later, all 17 were still housed. So we knew that we could house anybody, and so we became believers.
One of the success stories of Utah's program is Susan Barrett, a formerly homeless woman who, along with her husband, spent 3 years living on the streets.
We have lived in this apartment for 1 year, and it's been the most amazing year of my life. My mental health has gotten better. We dropped the dosages of my meds drastically. It's to the point where I think I'm ready to have a job again.
Now, Sam is bringing the Housing First model to Los Angeles. Thanks to Housing First, Tony has been paired with a case manager, Jillian, and given a voucher for over half of his rent. Now he's on the hunt for his first home in over 15 years.
Hello, I'm trying to inquire about the apartments you have for rent.
We joined Tony in North Hollywood, where Jillian had found an apartment she thought would be a good fit.
So a typical 2-bedroom layout.
I like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
It's a great place, man.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Seeing Tony apartment hunting for the first time was honestly kind of amazing. Like almost to the degree where I felt embarrassed to be here because it's such a big moment for him. He hasn't had a home in over 15 years. So to walk into one that could be his was kind of an unbelievably intimate moment.
Well, now that there's a real prospect on the horizon, how you feeling this morning? You feeling excited?
More than that. More than that, actually. Not excited, ecstatic.
We're in North Hollywood. Tony has moved in. It's been about 5-6 weeks since we last saw him, and we're gonna go see how he's doing.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan. How you doing, baby?
What's up, man?
I'm all right.
Dude, it's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to be home.
What's the best part of it?
I don't have to worry
Right.
like I had to worry out there in those streets.
Just a little peace of mind.
A lot of peace of mind.
Right.
It's a whole lot different being secure.
Sure.
It feels like I came home to Mama and she gave me a hug. That's how I feel. I'm all right now. I'm a happy man now.
What Housing First has really shown is that given the opportunity, the vast, vast majority of folks retain housing. They stay housed.
Homelessness is a very human problem that we've historically dealt with in a pretty inhumane way. Housing First is a program that rethinks that approach from the ground up. And for all the stats and savings that illustrate its success, maybe the real metric we should be focused on is the life-changing impact it's had on folks like Tony.
Homelessness, I think, is a condition that can easily change. That same caring, thoughtful person is the same person who's homeless or housed. We're just giving them an opportunity to express more of themselves when we house them.
It's hugely empowering for people to have choices and to feel a sense of pride and ownership. Nothing builds self-esteem like having a home.
Gives you a reason to seed, a reason to step forward. I got something else I can do besides roll up in a blanket and freeze all night.
Because this ultimately is what the solution to homelessness is in this country. It's going to be a matter of political will. We're going to have to up the ante and really invest in ending homelessness because we know we can do it.